Hi guys, today I want us now to fill the form I-134, the affidavit of support used for the diversity visa lottery. But before we start filling it up, I want to outline these things. That this form I-134 used for the affidavit of support in diversity visa lottery interview is supposed to be filled only by a person who is already in the United States and willing to sponsor you. So the person must be in the United States, either a United States citizen or a legal permanent resident, meaning a person with a green card. It should not be filled by someone outside of the United States. Secondly, this form is meant for non-immigrant visas. It is not meant for immigrant visas except for the diversity visa. It can be used for the diversity visa. There is another that is Form I-864. That is what is meant for the immigrant visas. And it is an extended version of the Form I-134, meaning it contains and requires many details, and it legally binds the sponsor. It can go up to 10 years or more. The other thing that I wish to say is that you can type it in PDF form in your computer, then print it out, sign your signature. That is, the signature should be put using a pen. It should be wet signed, and then scan it back and send it to your beneficiary. Or you can print it out and fill it entirely with a pen and then scan it back and send it to your beneficiary. And having known that, where do you find this form? Let's see where we find it and how we can fill it up. So you come over here in your browser, whichever browser you're using, and then type form I-134 USCIS. So once you type that, you'll get this form here under this USCIS website. That's where you will click. So you click it and this USCIS webpage appears, and it says I-134 Declaration of Financial Support. And you scroll down, and when you come down here, you'll see under Forms and Documents, and we have Form I-134 PDF. So this is what you're going to click, and once you click, here comes the page. Then you can click download it here and then start filling it up. So when you download and save it, so then you open it, and now let's start filling it up. As you can see, this form is basically divided into three parts or three sections, and the first section is about the beneficiary, and this is the principal applicant in the diversity visa, and under him is also the information about his family members. And the second part is about now the sponsor, the person willing to sponsor the beneficiary. And then the third part is if you use the interpreter or someone to help you in filling it up. So without much ado, let's fill this. Now, the first part, part one. I am filling this form on behalf of myself or another individual. Of course, since you are the sponsor, you select on behalf of another person, that is the beneficiary. And then the information about the beneficiary in part two, the beneficiary's name as it appears on the passport, you fill them in these slots. And then if the beneficiary, that is the principal applicant, used other names, you can include them here. And then you continue to fill the general information about the beneficiary, the date of birth, whether he's male or female, and then the alien number. Of course, the beneficiary doesn't have an alien number because he's never been to the United States. He doesn't have any green card. So he doesn't have, or she doesn't have the alien number. You can leave it blank. Then the town where he lives currently, the state, the province, the country, the citizenship or the nationality, and this is the place where he is before he moves to the United States. And then we have the marital status. Is he single or is she single, married, divorced, widowed, legally separated, married, annulled, such thing. But when it comes to this, remember, if married, they should have the marriage certificate. If divorced, they should have the divorced document. If widowed, the same. You should have the death certificate of the deceased. If legally separated, the separation documents must be there. The annulled, also, the documents must be there. So don't check this if you don't have the documents. And then we continue to fill this part. Beneficiary's email address. This is basically where the beneficiary lives currently. So you'll fill the information here. And then after filling the information here, it continues to say, are the beneficiary's mailing address and physical address the same? Obviously, it is the same. So you click yes. And then it says, if you answered no, you provide the details of the address which the beneficiary uses. That is in case you selected no. And then you continue down here. Beneficiaries' anticipated length of stay. Of course, because they are a green card winner, then the start date can be whichever date, let's say a month or so from now, or whichever date that is within that time of the interview. And then the end date, you say no end date because they are coming to live there permanently. So we are doing it quickly. And then we come about the beneficiary's financial information. Now, note this. Since the beneficiary is not yet in the United States, there is no point of you filling any form of income for this person. They are not earning anything in the United States. So what you should do is you just put the name here. If it's the principal applicant, you start with the principal applicant. You put the name here, the date of their birth, and then you say the relation may be the husband or the principal applicant. And then you put here a 0. For example, you can say Mary Lillian, and then you put the date of birth starting with month, let's say 7th, and let's say 2, and then let's say year, like that. And then you put, this is the principal applicant, and then you put a 0 there. And then let's say she has a husband, then say John like that. You put the date of birth like so, start with the month, like that, and then you say husband, and then you put 0, and then you continue. Maybe you put the daughter or the son and continue depending on the number of dependents the principal applicant has. So the point is, because they are not yet already in the United States, not earning anything in the United States, don't bother yourself about filling they are earning here. They are earning 0 in the United States. Then, does the beneficiary's total income, including from the dependents and other individuals who contribute to the beneficiary's income, include any individual named in Part 3, come from illegal activities? Of course, if you fill this part, then you say no, but obviously it will be no. And then, if you answered yes, then explain those sources. And then we come down here, information about the beneficiaries. This is declaration of the assets. Also in this place, don't declare any asset. There's no point of that. Don't declare any asset. Don't put any asset here unless the principal applicant is in the United States on other visas and they are making some income. So you can use the bank statement. That will be the easier way to go. But if not, don't fill this part. Don't include any declaration here. And then we have the information about the individuals agreeing to financially support the beneficiary. Now, this is the second section about the sponsor. Now, the same way you indicate your name as the sponsor, and then if you're using other names, you include them here, and you put your current address, of course, here where you're living at the moment. And we continue. Is your current mailing address the same? Obviously, it will be the same. You say yes. And then you add your date of birth, the place of birth, the town, the state, the country, the alien number. If you are the legal permanent resident, of course, you'll be having the alien number. You put it here. The USCIS number, you can put here your number if you have, but if you don't, you just leave it blank. And then we have the immigration status. Are you a United States citizen? Are you a legal permanent resident? Are you a national? So you check whichever suits you. And then you put your alien number if you are the person holding a green card, and so on. Remember, non-immigrant, some of them can still sponsor you, but it will require the non-immigrant, that means a person in the United States but is not on permanent residence. He's there on a temporary residence. He can sponsor you, but he would be required to have the form I-134 to declare the length of stay there and is it sufficient to sponsor you as you come there. But normally it should be the United States citizen, United States national, or the person with a green card. We come here now to declare your employment status. It is advisable that if you're sponsoring someone, you at least be employed, either self-employed or employed by an institution. But if you're not employed, then what would you be filling here? Because this is about filling the income and showing that you can sponsor this person by your income. So you select employed, either full-time or self-employed, and then if others you explain, but basically you should be employed. If you indicated that you are employed, then provide the required information here. I'm currently employed as, you put your title here, the name of the employer, and or you, if you are self-employed, you just say you're self-employed here. And then provide the current employer's address. Yeah, you provide the current employer's address here. It's not necessary that they will contact them, but if sometimes it may need, then they might contact, but it's not necessarily that they will contact the employer, but you put the employer's information here just for proof. And then we come to the financial declaration. Now here you declare your income, and you should do it this way. If you are employed, you state your names here, type your names here, the date of birth here just as we did before, and then you indicate the relationship. That is, if you are a man, you say here your names, your date of birth, and you say here the main sponsor, and then you put your annual earning here, the total annual earning. And then if you have a wife or a husband, you indicate their names here, then you indicate their date of birth here, and then you put wife, and then here you put their total annual income. If you say you have a son and the son's date of birth goes here, and then if he is working, then you put the total income, the annual income here, and then you put the total of the incomes down here. That's how you should do it. And then we have this. Does any of the income comes from the illegal activity, you as the sponsor? Of course, it will be no, because it won't be wise if you say yes. But if you say yes, depends with you. You give the reason here where you get that illegal income from. But if I were you, I wouldn't have chosen coming from illegal sources. And then we come to the asset declarations. The asset declarations, here you can declare your assets, but my advice is you should not declare any asset if your income is sufficient to sponsor this DV lottery winner. Why should you declare your assets? Remember, this is not a declaration for any benefit. You are just sponsoring someone. Why should you go through the entire process of declaring your asset? Because you'll have to provide appraisal forms for the asset. It must be valued. The asset must be valued. And above it, remember the total value of the asset is calculated a fifth of it. A fifth of the total value of the asset is what is regarded, or is what is gauged if you're able to sponsor a DV lottery winner. So why should you go ahead and fill this part if your income is sufficient? You're not declaring any wealth here for any benefit. So don't declare anything here unless you declare your financial statement. If you have some savings in a bank, then go ahead and declare that savings and then put the total amount here and the total here. That is the only time that you should declare here. Declare the financial statements of your savings in a bank. And then we continue down here. Have you previously submitted Form I-134 on behalf of a person? So my advice is that if possible, you should be sponsoring one person at a time. So, but if you have enough wealth, then you can sponsor several. And if you have sponsored, you say yes. And then you fill the information of that other person that you are sponsoring here. And then we have this 21. And note this carefully. I intend or do not intend to make specific contribution to the support of the beneficiary in part 2. So my advice would be, don't commit yourself to giving any specific amount of money to the support of the beneficiary. But if you do commit, if you click I intend, then don't be specific. Say that I would support the beneficiary with the amount as much as there would be need. And then we come to this part. So this part is filled up by the beneficiary, and it says, I can understand English and read English. So if so, you check this box. But if you need an interpreter, you check this box. But if you understand English, that would be good for you. You check this. Now, after checking that, you provide your contact as the beneficiary here, and together with the email address, and then you will go through this information down here and then put your signature on this using a pen, wet signed. And this other part is for the sponsor, the individual agreeing to financially support. And also, does the sponsor understand English? Obviously it would be yes, but if you don't understand as the sponsor and you need an interpreter, you have to check this. And then you give your contacts and the email address there. And then we come to this part where you read this information as the sponsor. You sign using a pen here. And then if you needed the interpreter, then the interpreter's information goes in here. So you fill the interpreter information here, but I don't see if you need that. And then he goes ahead and signs. And then if you needed a preparer, if somebody helped you in filling this form, you should fill their details in here. If somebody helped you fill this form, and then he should declare, and then he should also sign if somebody helped you fill this paper. And then we finally come to the end of this form, and this is where you provide the additional information. If the spaces provided above were not sufficient to hold the whole of your information, then this part is provided for you to add the additional information. And this is how it is done. You have to go up here in whichever section here, and then you get the page number, and then you get the part number, and you get the item number. And then after putting the page number, the part number, and the item number, and then you add the information down here. For example, if you had extra number of family members that were not included in the section above here, if these spaces were not sufficient, so you take note of the page number, which is 3 here, and then you take note of the part number and the item number. Part number, item number, and page number. Then you come down here, and then you give the full names of the additional member, and then you put the page number, then you put the part number and the section and the item number, and then you put the details of that beneficiary. And that is that about filling the form I-134, and I hope you found the information clear and good and useful. And if so, please like the video and also share it out and subscribe if you have not, and let's meet in the next video.